Good afternoon, everybody. It's so good to see you here at our LinkedIn Lunch and Learn. We were talking in the office a couple weeks ago about LinkedIn, and I said, honestly, I only get on there when I get a notification that someone has requested to connect. And I heard a bunch of me too, same here. So we reached out to our go-to social media expert, Brooke Anderson, who is the Chief Creative Officer at Converge Local. She is just an amazing resource for all things social media. And she said, absolutely, she would love to do this. She's always so gracious to share her knowledge with us. So, Brooke, I'm going to, without further ado, just turn it over to you. If you'll have any questions during this, you feel free to use the chat. And we'll catch those questions at the end, or we'll try and open it up if we have a few minutes for some live questions. So, Brooke, thank you so much for your time, and you can take it away.
All right. Well, thank you for everyone that has joined this session. As the name implies, this is Lunch and Learn, so feel free to eat your lunch while we chat. We are going to be going over some LinkedIn 101 basics, and more specifically, using LinkedIn for lead generation, which is not something that a lot of people may be familiar with if you're just getting started with LinkedIn. So let me share my screen so you can see the presentation. All right. Okay, so as I said, this is LinkedIn 101 for lead generation and beyond. And the beyond part is because we're going to be learning some marketing foundational pieces that you can carry into your LinkedIn activity and into your everyday business life, and quite frankly, just into your life in general. And so you'll walk away with all of that knowledge from this presentation. And then of course, if you have questions afterwards, feel free to ask me. I will give you my email address. Feel free to email me. We're here to support you. So first, a little bit about Converge. Converge, for those of you that don't know, we are a full service marketing agency. And you can see a list there of the services that we provide. So we're kind of a one-stop shop for anything that you could need or want for your marketing. One of the big things that is a pillar of who we are is that we really believe in giving back to the community. So anytime we're asked to do a presentation, if we can accommodate, we certainly do that. And we just like to be very engaged in the community that we live and work in, and that, quite frankly, we love a lot. So we're also a team that likes to have a lot of fun. We kind of have an internal slogan that we like to make marketing fun. There's no reason it can't be fun, but I know to a lot of people, it can seem very overwhelming. So we're going to try to mitigate some of your concerns about LinkedIn throughout this presentation. All right. So throughout the presentation, I'm going to ask you to make a few agreements with me. And these are like foundational things that you need to agree to make your LinkedIn, your other social media, and quite frankly, your business a success. So agreement number one is that we believe that we can. So we're going to start from a mindset of believing that we can do these steps, commit to them, and follow through with them. All right, so let's talk about the purpose of our social media just in general. So why do we even care to take part in social media at all? The first reason is because we want to share our story authentically, and the key word is authentically. The other key word is story. If you look at your social media page, if you looked at your LinkedIn page, and all you see is a lot of logic and a lot of reposting of articles and things like that, you're not maximizing on one of the most important parts of marketing, which is the storytelling. You also want to share your remarkability factor. And if your first thought that comes to your head is, my business isn't really remarkable, that's a whole other conversation. I guarantee you that there is something remarkable about your business. And what I mean by remarkability is that there are things that you do day in and day out that other people will never get to do. So when you're showing them the behind the scenes of those things, that is interesting to people. It's the premise of what the revolution of reality television is based off of. And what happens is businesses kind of get blinded to their remarkability because we can't see the forest for the trees, because we work in it day in and day out, and we kind of start thinking, what could possibly be interesting about what I do? But you have a remarkability factor, and social media is the place to share it. You also want to be very intentional about driving people towards sales, virtual tours, whatever it may be that you want people to take action and do. We call that a call to action. You also want to stay connected with your clients and customers. And this is especially important through this year and a half of pandemic that we've been through, because a lot of people just pulled back completely from staying connected with those clients, and you don't want to be one of those people. The other thing that you're going to do with your social media and your LinkedIn profile is you're going to cross market for other businesses. In the Shenandoah Valley, there's a vibe that people play nicely together in the sandbox. So if I see the chamber doing something amazing, I'm going to post that to my social media to help them along, and vice versa. And we do that because we play nice in the sandbox, and it's just the right thing to do. And then, of course, to share announcements, and then to gain insights from analytics. So if you're never looking at things like, do more men or women view your social media, or what time of day they're viewing, or how many people are clicking on your call to action, you're leaving a lot on the table that can inform your strategy moving forward. So let's take a little bit of a deeper look at the purpose of LinkedIn specifically. So the most obvious thing that LinkedIn is used for, and what it was kind of promoted for right out of the gate, was that it was an easy way to connect with hiring managers and recruiters, right? It's a place that you go, you post your professional skills. It's like a social media resume of sorts. People are endorsing each other's skills, and it's a place that you can go to get a job. Yes, you can do all of that. That's not what we're going to be really focusing in on today, but that is part of what LinkedIn is used for. More importantly, from the perspective of marketing and lead generation, LinkedIn gives you access to industry peers. So people that are your colleagues from across the world. And that is really beneficial for your own learning, for positioning yourself as a thought leader, and many other aspects. You also can you gain access to a certain segment of your target audience, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. And most importantly, gatekeepers. So when you are thinking through a marketing campaign or a lead generation campaign for yourself, one of the big things people are really stressed out about is, how do I get in front of the person that is actually going to be a decision maker? And LinkedIn, more than any other platform, gives you the potential access to those people. There are also lots of research capabilities, again, lots of learning opportunities within LinkedIn. It's also a place to demonstrate your knowledge and your credibility and your leadership expertise. And again, position yourself as a thought leader, which is something you should be thinking about doing with your social media, because it lends to the overall credibility of your business. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as well. You should also be looking into joining LinkedIn groups. And the LinkedIn groups are a great way to expand your network and also learn from other people in your particular industry. So make sure you're taking advantage of that. And then there's also a section or an addition to LinkedIn that you can sign up for, which is called Sales Navigator. And for the purposes of lead generation, Sales Navigator is going to make your life incredibly easy. It's a little bit of a misnomer, because some people might look at that and be like, well, my business isn't directly in sales necessarily. But you probably have salespeople that work for you, or what Sales Navigator really does is give you a way to really focus in on a micro level to find exactly the people in your target audience that you want to reach out to. So whether you think that applies to you or not, we'll go over some of the things that you want to think through with Sales Navigator, and you can kind of start to see how you can use that for your lead generation. So I often think about social media in terms of a house. So if I was thinking about it, I would think Facebook is like the living room, kind of casual. You invite people in, and LinkedIn is what I call the digital office. So it has more of a professional slant to it, but that doesn't mean you can't utilize things like storytelling and some of the other aspects we'll be talking about. But just some stats to kind of tell you how LinkedIn is really positioned in the world. And this data is from 2020, because typically we don't have the data from 2021 quite yet. But so from 2020, LinkedIn was ranked #1 in terms of digital trust. So people go to LinkedIn and they tend to trust that information and trust the people that are on there more than other social media channels. The other thing that we're really particularly interested in terms of lead generation for LinkedIn is that when you look at the best social network for lead generation, you can see that LinkedIn offers nearly 3 times the lead generation potential of other channels. So if you're doing lead gen in other channels, that's not to say that that can't also be effective, but LinkedIn can also be extremely, extremely effective for lead generation. All right, so now here comes agreement number 2. We will get through the next slide that has no visuals. So I had so much information, I had to create this slide, and all it has is words on it, which is like a big faux pas for presentations like this. So you'll have to forgive me. Okay, we're gonna talk a little bit before we dive into the nitty gritty of lead generation in LinkedIn, some tips for optimizing just your regular LinkedIn profile. So when we think about LinkedIn, there are a couple of different ways we can slice and dice it. You can have your own profile, very similar to like your own regular Facebook page, and then you can have a business profile. Now, for lead generation, you're going to want that lead generation to come from a specific person's profile versus the business profile in almost all instances, because you're trying to have that personal interaction versus a business to a person interaction. But that's not to say that you shouldn't have both a business profile and have your team have personal profiles, okay? But this is for optimizing just your regular profile, because this is 101, so I wanted to include this information. The first thing is choose a great profile picture and background photo. And people are like, well, duh, of course. But let me tell you, people do not always follow this advice. First of all, it's important to have both. You want both a profile picture and the background photo. And remember, even in your background photo, don't sleep on the background photo. Make it something that's going to catch people's attention. And the thing that catches most people's attention are other people. So if you can have a background photo with other people in it, that's going to amp up your interest factor. In LinkedIn, you have an opportunity to create a headline with your profile. Most people just put their job title in. What I'm telling you is make it something more than just your job title. So make it something engaging, make it something that describes why you do what you do versus just your regular old job title. There's an opportunity for you to create a summary about yourself. And what most people are doing is they're creating a summary about their job, so on and so forth. Now, sure, you can mention your job, but what you want to do is turn that into a story. You want to get beyond what you do and how you do it and show some passion for why you do what you do. And I'll reinforce why this is so important in some of the later slides. Here's the other thing people are doing. There are all kinds of buzzwords. I've even used buzzwords in this presentation. Thought leader is a buzzword, right? So I'm not saying you can't use buzzwords in your profile, but if you use them, you need to be able to back it up. So if somebody said, I am a prolific speaker, you need to show in your skills, in your certifications, in what you're posting, in speaking events you're doing, that is in fact the case, because people can really see through buzzwords that are not backed up. You want to actively grow your network. So if you're going to be really successful with LinkedIn, LinkedIn needs to be something that you check in with every day. Now, this doesn't have to be overwhelming. It can be Monday through Friday during your normal work time. That's fine. We'll give you Saturday and Sunday off. but you need to be consistent with it. And I'm talking about dedicate 15 minutes, 20 minutes a day. If you can dedicate 10, that's fine, but you're going to want to actively be engaging with this. One quick way to kind of amp up who you're connecting with is to sync your email list, which most of you probably have, with LinkedIn, because what that will do is give you connection suggestions. So people you might not have thought of that could be really, really good to have in your network. You want to make sure that you list your relevant skills and spotlight the services you offer. So all of this is driving towards the fact that you need to have a fully filled out LinkedIn profile. Really spend some time thinking about the relevant skills that you have and making sure you're hitting all of that and the services that you offer. Here's the other thing. In LinkedIn, there's something called endorsements. And endorsements are basically showing other people that you think someone else has a good skill set or can do something really, really well. You want to spread the endorsement love, okay? You want to be endorsing people that you know and trust for their skills. And you also want to be checking your notifications for people that are endorsing your skills. Now, here's a caveat to that. Let's say that you have a job and you have 3 main skill sets. And for whatever reason, people are endorsing one of those skill sets over and over and over again, but not the other 2. You want to kind of manage that so that your LinkedIn profile doesn't get skewed too far in one direction. And so your goal is to really have a LinkedIn profile and an endorsement profile that really reflects all of your skill sets. And there's no harm in, tactfully asking people for endorsements, but make sure you're also spreading the love yourself. In LinkedIn, you can take things called skills assessments. And this is kind of LinkedIn's gold star that you are prolific in a certain area. Don't sleep on this. Don't ignore these. Take some of these because this will help your LinkedIn profile and also help with your credibility. You also want to request recommendations within your profile. So ask people for their recommendations and then also spread the love with the recommendations yourself. I like that one so much, I put it in there twice. So there's also a section in LinkedIn called publications. This is where you can really amp up your thought leader positioning. So if you have a white paper, if you can write a blog about a certain topic, go into the publication section on your LinkedIn profile and submit those. And that will help with that thought leader positioning. Don't be afraid to do it. You never know. Like, the only short answer that you have is if you don't try. The answer is going to be no. So go into publications and position yourself as that thought leader. You're going to want to, in that 15 minutes a day that you're going to be on there, make sure you're going through and commenting and liking and posting things. And we'll give you some recommendations for that in a minute. And then you want to share the accomplishments from your business page onto your personal page as well. So if you don't have a business page yet, you want to go ahead and create one, but just make sure that you're sharing those accomplishments on the personal pages. And then the last thing on here is get serious about leads with Sales Navigator. And we're going to talk more about that. Okay, congratulations. You got through the slide with no visuals. That was a lot of information, and I appreciate you hanging in there. All right, so here's agreement number 3. We are going to think thoroughly about who our ideal clients and customers are as a precursor to LinkedIn lead generation. So before you charge into the lead generation world of LinkedIn, you are going to think about who it is you're actually targeting. And you're not going to just make guesses. You're going to go from actual data and facts. So these are some of the questions you need to ask yourself. You need to ask yourself, have you researched the clients that you have now? Like, who are the people coming in your door? Who are the people responding on your social media? Who are the people responding to your calls to action? So who is it that you're serving now? I'm not saying these are your ideal clients, because in a lot of instances they aren't, but they're what we call like bread and butter clients. They're people that like keep the lights on, but in your big vision for your business, they may not necessarily be the people that would be the perfect quote unquote client. All right, the second question is, have you researched your ideal client? Have you spent some time thinking about if the perfect client or customer walked through the door, what would their attributes be? How old would they be? Would they have some pre-knowledge of what I'm selling? Would they be a certain education level? Would they be married with kids? Would they, there are all of these things that you need to consider when you're thinking through who your actual ideal client is. The other thing is, have you researched your competition? So you'd be surprised how many people have not researched their competition. If you have not done that, you need to know what you're up against to be able to have a thoughtful marketing strategy, LinkedIn strategy, overall business strategy. And then have you thought about what your differentiator is? Now, most of the time when I ask people what their differentiator is, their answer is customer service. And I hate to rain on everybody's parade, but every single person is giving that answer. And while I have no doubt that everybody is providing excellent customer service, that is not enough of a differentiator. It can be customer service and something else, but just customer service is not enough of a differentiator. And then the other question is, have you considered the buyer's journey? So the buyer's journey, we often refer to it as a funnel, are stages that people go to when they decide to purchase something from you. And this applies to both products and services. So for buyer personas, just to give you an example, when we think through buyer personas, here's an example of the things that we are researching: how old people are, their income, where they might be working, where they're located, education, relationship status, social media preferences, what their goals and desires are, frustrations and concern, what their buyer behavior is, triggering events. We go deep into this research as a marketing agency. Don't let this be overwhelming. You don't have to necessarily hit on all of these different points, but spend some real time thinking about that ideal perfect customer. Because if you're never marketing to them, you're never going to capture them. And that's in LinkedIn or otherwise. So you need to know who those people are. I referred earlier to the buyer's journey, and this is an example of the funnel. So people go through these 6 stages when they are considering buying a product or service. So the first thing is somebody has an unfulfilled need, or they have a problem they need to solve. So for instance, I think we have some people from tourism in here. So people's unfulfilled need may be, oh my gosh, I've been cooped up for 18 months in a pandemic and I need a vacation. So that, it applies to products or services. And then people go through an information search, an evaluation of who can help them with their problem or unfulfilled need. They then have their purchase decision, and then the purchase process, which needs to be very easy. And then if you kind of fulfill all of these parts of the funnel for that person, then they can potentially be a fan for life. So I just wanted to go over that. That's just good overall business knowledge when you're thinking about any sort of marketing strategy or sales strategy for your business. All right, the other questions that you need to ask about your audience is, what does your audience need? So what are their unfulfilled needs going to be that would drive them towards you? Where's your target audience located? And if we're talking about LinkedIn, that target audience is going to be made up of professional people. That's who you're going to find on LinkedIn. And then what aligns best with your brand or industry? So you want to make sure that you understand what your tone is in your own marketing. And then what content resonates best. And you're going to find that out through trial and error. So don't be afraid to try things so you can start gathering data of what people respond to and what they don't. Okay, so we've talked about optimizing your LinkedIn profile. We've talked about thinking through who your target audience is. And now you have an optimized LinkedIn profile. You have also signed up for Sales Navigator, which just dovetails into your LinkedIn profile. And this is where you can start your lead generation. So here are some tips for doing that. When you go into Sales Navigator, it will show up as a little circle in the right-hand side of your LinkedIn profile, and you're going to click that. And you're going to see some options where you can create lead list and account list. And the beautiful thing about this is you can really drill down and target people by a bunch of different factors, way more factors than I have on the screen, but you can see some here that we're talking about. So you can target them, people that have been active on LinkedIn within the past 30 days. So you know that you're dealing with somebody that's really engaged with their LinkedIn profile. You can target by geography, relationship, company, industry, company headcount, seniority level, their title, their keywords that they're searching for. And then there are even more types of filters that you can utilize under account results. So what you're going to do is, now that you've thought through who your ideal clients are, you are going to go through and fill out all of the filters that apply. And this will generate, like magic, a list will pop up of typically thousands and thousands of contacts, depending on how you're targeting. And it will even show you on that list who of these contacts have been mentioned in the news recently, who of these contacts have been active in the last 30 days, who of these contacts do you have a mutual LinkedIn connection with in some way. So maybe you went to the same university or so on and so forth. And so this list pops up, and you're going to want to save that list, because now you've created a lead list, and you're going to use this to target people in a very specific way that we're going to talk about. All right. So you have this lead list, right? You have these people that you want to get in front of. You're driving them to some specific call to action. But before you do that, what we know in marketing is it typically takes what we call touches, like 6 to 8 touches of some sort of interaction for someone to take action towards something. Now, depending on what you're trying to take them, have them take action towards, this may be a little less, it may be a little more. But 6 to 8 is the general rule that we know we are working within, okay? So what you want to do is you want to think of what are your 6 to 8 touches going to be. So if I want to really market to, let's say, Courtney at the chamber, right? I want Courtney to sign up for some sort of marketing service with Converge. I know that within my LinkedIn profile, within my lead generation, within my LinkedIn, I need to have like 6 to 8 interactions with her. In the nonprofit world, we used to call this dating the donor. And we didn't mean actually dating the donor, but we meant when you date someone, right? You don't ask someone to marry you on the first date. You get to know that person. The same holds true for sales. People don't do business with businesses, they do business with people. And so you want to start some interactions with people. So in LinkedIn, this looks like commenting on their post. It looks like liking their post. It looks like endorsing a skill. It looks like wishing them happy birthday or happy work anniversary. There are notifications you can turn on in LinkedIn that will remind you when it's someone's birthday or work anniversary, so on and so forth. So you want to go in and turn those on. And every time you have a touch with the lead, that's counting towards that 6 to 8 times. And what we're leading up to with those 6 to 8 interactions, those 6 to 8 touches, is some sort of call to action, a specific call to action that leads them to the next step of what you want them to do. So maybe that's to set up a call with you so you can show them a demo of some of your work, or set up a time to chat about your mutual interest in the industry. Whatever it is you want them to do, those 6 to 8 touches are leading up to that call to action. Here is the key. Here's the good news and here's the bad news. It is that you must remain consistent. So if I start off really gung-ho and I have these leads and I am getting my 6 to 8 touches in with them and I'm tracking that, and then it's like I kind of drop off and 3 months goes by and then I don't interact with them in those 3 months, you're taking like 7 steps back in your process. So this is something that you need to be consistently pursuing within LinkedIn. Now, here's the catch. if you're going to be really, really consistent with this, there's one stipulation, and that is LinkedIn says you can only make up to 100 connections per week. And connection requests are basically the same thing as friend requests in Facebook. So if I want to, have Courtney as part of my network, I first have to send her a connection request. And that is how we end up within each other's network. You can only send 100 of those per week. And here's the thing, if you send over that amount, they're going to ding your account and they're going to pause you, and you're not going to be able to do it for sometimes up to a week. So just make sure you're staying below that 100 connection rule. Okay, anybody have any questions at the moment? Good to go? Okay, agreement number 4. We are not going to stress about content in LinkedIn, because as part of the training today, I'm going to teach you about a tried and true formula for content creation. And why is content creation even part of this conversation? Because you need to have a robust LinkedIn profile. Remember, during that 15 to 20 minutes you're checking in with it each day, you're going to want to post some content on your personal LinkedIn page and on your business LinkedIn page. And one of the biggest questions that we get in marketing is like, what am I supposed to post? Like, how am I supposed to be doing this? And so we're going to give you a formula that will help you align what you're posting with the things that are going to be most impactful for your audience. Your leads are not just going through that 6 to 8 touches system. They're also going to be viewing your profile. So it's really important that your profile in terms of content creation helps position you in the best way possible. All right, so I love talking about these because this is grounded in science. This is grounded in psychology, and it's kind of a life hack, to be honest with you. We're going to talk about it in terms of LinkedIn lead generation, but this is a life hack for any content you're creating. It's a life hack for your face-to-face interactions with customers and in just your life in general. So these are called the modes of persuasion, and there are 3 of them. And I say that with a little asterisk at the end because there may be more. Okay, the first one, they have fancy Latin names. So the first one is ethos, and that's credibility or character. Logos, which is logic or reason, and pathos, which is emotion or connection. So these 3 things, whether we realize it or not, are what we are evaluating to establish trust or belief in a person or a business. And this is particularly compelling when we talk about it in terms of businesses, because remember I said people don't do business with businesses, they do business with people. And so people are evaluating you on these 3 criteria to see if they're going to consider doing business with you at all. And this happens oftentimes very subconsciously, but I'll walk you through what's happening in our minds as we're evaluating people for this, okay? So if we combine the modes of persuasion and we have content that addresses each one of these, plus we really know who our audience is because we've looked and researched who our ideal audience is, you're setting yourself up for big time success in content creation. Okay, so when we're talking about credibility or character, there are 5 main components to this. And with each of the components, people are, again, it can happen subconsciously, asking themselves questions about their interaction with you to verify if you or your business is credible or not. So when you know what questions are going to be asking, you can position your content, your sales conversations to automatically answer these things. And this person's going to be shocked, like, wow, this person really understands me. And they feel that way because you're addressing these questions that are part of the modes of persuasion. So I don't have them all listed here, but I have some highlights for you. So ethos is the credibility factor, and part of that mode of persuasion is goodwill. So what people are asking is, what is your motivation or your intention? So people are assessing you to see basically like, are you here to educate me, inform me, be useful to me, or do you have ulterior motives? The other big one is, do you understand my challenges, difficulties, or frustrations? So when you have content that addresses and preemptively addresses, or you have a sales conversation that preemptively addresses, or you have LinkedIn content that preemptively addresses what people's challenges or difficulties or frustrations are, you're already ahead of the game in terms of gaining their trust. And there are other questions on here. I'm assuming they're going to send this presentation out. So I'm just going to hit the ones that I have in bold, and you can look at the other ones yourself. All right, questions about trustworthiness. So we saw this big time during the pandemic. So here we had the president at the time and advisors, and people were really looking at these people to evaluate, do I think these people are trustworthy with the information they're giving me? Whether you think they are or not is not the topic of this presentation, but it's a good example of how we're evaluating for trustworthiness. And so what people are looking for is your information accurate? Are you objective? Do your words and actions benefit me? Do you respect me? And probably most importantly, do you admit when you don't know something? So even on your LinkedIn profile, don't be afraid to admit if you don't know something. That is part of the whole process of the modes of persuasion in terms of credibility. So for logos, which is logic, what people are asking themselves are basically, are you a reasonable person? So to be able to trust you, I need to know that you're credible, and I need to know that you make sense, basically. And so are your facts credible and verifiable? Do your reasons make sense? These are like the two big heavy hitting questions. All right, pathos is basically the overarching question is, do you move me in terms of, do you stir something in me emotionally? And that doesn't have to mean high drama. It can mean fun. It can mean humor, but you need to have some sort of emotional connection with people. Otherwise, all you're doing is telling people what you do and how you do it. And that's not enough to gain their full trust. So the big question when it comes to pathos is, are you authentic? So I don't expect you to go on LinkedIn and suddenly kind of be putting on a persona of someone that you're not. It's important in all your social media channels and all of your marketing that you're putting your authentic foot forward. And so what happens is businesses are very, very comfortable with saying what they do and how they do it, but they're not really comfortable with the emotional connection part. And if you're looking at your LinkedIn profile and all you see are things that address like what you do and how you do it, things that address credibility, things that address logic, and you don't see anything that would have people be emotionally drawn to you or to make you more human to them, or anything that would count as a human interest factor, you're not maximizing your LinkedIn profile. So you need to be posting content that addresses these three modes of persuasion, because those, when somebody goes to your profile and looks at it, when someone's assessing you part of the way through these your lead generation campaign, they are going to be looking for credibility, logic, and emotional connection. So think through that when you're creating your content for your LinkedIn profile. So I do also want to make a note that, again, emotional connection doesn't have to mean high drama. It doesn't have to be tear jerkers. It doesn't have to be pulling on heartstrings. It can be humor. And this is a really good example of, taking a very serious situation, but adding some light humor to it that the Wildlife Center of Virginia did. So this is the one that I kind of use as an example of what that can look like, but still be professional. All right, the fourth mode of persuasion is something called kairos, and it's not that often talked about, but basically it means that you're giving people the right information at the right time. And so as you're looking at your LinkedIn profile, you're checking in for those 15 minutes every day, you're working with these leads, you're posting your content, you're going to start to get a feel of what people respond to. And because you're on there every day, if there's something happening, in the media that would be appropriate to address on your LinkedIn profile, or there's some exciting news, you're going to be giving the right information at the right time. If you create your LinkedIn profiles and you just kind of leave them by the wayside, you're going to miss this fourth mode of persuasion factor. Okay. So just to give you some examples of what the modes of persuasion look like in practice. So credibility can be things like years in business. So maybe on your LinkedIn profile, you do a big picture of all the people in your company and you're celebrating your 50th year, and you're having people do little blurbs about what they love about the company, so on and so forth. That lends to credibility. The number of clients you serve. Let's say that I have a client, this is a true story. I have a client that reached over selling 2 million of something. And so you better believe that we are putting that out on social media, and that's going to be part of the LinkedIn profile. Any awards that you've won. And remember, these will be posted on your business profile, but you want to share them on those individual employee profiles as well. And then testimonials are huge. So that's, again, is where those recommendations and those endorsements come in. All right, logic. So advice that makes sense. So you are going to want to be putting out content under the logic column that adds value to people's lives and gives them, makes their life easier in some way. And so that all needs to make sense, because they're evaluating that to say, like, is what you're saying really legit, basically. If you're going to put statistics out there, make sure they're accurate. And then it's really good to position your content as challenge and solution-based information. So that could be, positioning your business as, this was the challenge our client had. This is a solution we provided. You're going to put in pictures with lots of people in them, or one or two people, whatever the case may be, but make it visually interesting and position it as challenge and solution versus a problem. People respond to that better. And then emotion and connection posts are like stories people can see themselves in. You want to post things that help people feel like that they are understood, that you can help them navigate their unfulfilled needs, their issues, that you are invested in their success. So on your LinkedIn profile, if you are not celebrating some of the wonderful things that clients are doing, whether it involves you or not, then you're leaving some of your persuasion on the table. And remember to make sure everything is authentic. Also, storytelling. I put in the recommendations for your profile that you make your summary a story. The same holds true for content. There was a study by Harvard Business Review that says we remember information 20 times, or 22%. We are 22% more likely to remember information if it is told in the form of a story. And I would wager, just by being a boots on the ground marketing person, that it's even higher than that. So you want to not just be giving people bullet pointed information. You want to tell people things in the form of a story. Okay, agreement number 5 is that we're going to work smarter, not harder. Okay, we all want to do that, right? So here are some tips for kind of pulling this all together. All right, so when we're talking about your lead generation campaign and organizing yourself with those 6 to 8 touches that you need to make, or we're talking about content creation, make yourself what we call an editorial calendar to stay organized. So this doesn't have to be overly complicated. You can even just write it on a piece of paper, but basically I have some semblance of what I am going to be posting each month for our social media, right? I know the holidays that are going to be involved, and those are a given. Maybe one month we're focusing on staff highlights, whatever the case may be, but you're organizing yourself by the month to say, these are things I know that we're going to be posting. Same thing with your lead generation, right? You need to be using some sort of organizational tool to know, okay, so this month, Brooke's in my target audience, and I have already liked a post of hers, I've commented on it, I've wished her happy birthday, so on and so forth, to get the 6 to 8 touches in before I'm sending her like a direct message to say, hey, want to meet for coffee? Want to talk about whatever? Whatever your sales pitch part is, or your call to action part is going to be. So you need to stay organized with yourself. In terms of posting for content, so that when your leads are checking out your profile, I want you to have a goal of posting 3 times a week, okay? You're like, oh my gosh, 3 times a week. What am I going to post? Don't panic. What you're going to do is you're going to say to yourself, what is a credibility, something that checks off the credibility mode of persuasion that I can post, something that checks off the logic mode of persuasion that I can post, and something that is an emotional connector. Organize your content in that way. Now, sometimes your content is going to hit on all three, and that's wonderful. Okay. So, but just make sure that your profile isn't just filled with what you do and how you do it. That's not enough. A good example of this, when we talk about the power of that emotional connection piece, is when you think of the heavy hitters in the industry. Like, let's take Subaru, for example. Subaru doesn't just pop up a car on the screen and say, this is what it does, this is how it does it, this is why you should buy it. No, they have golden retrievers driving cars. They have the 16-year-old going for her first drive. They hang their hat on that emotional connection piece. And pay attention to TV tonight and how many commercials you see where that is indeed the case. So don't sleep on the emotional connection part. All right, the other thing that is really helpful is a book that is great for you to read to kind of get clear on some of this stuff with why you do what you do. And it's called Start With Why by Simon Sinek. And it will help you kind of even better conceptualize that emotional connection piece. And it kind of answers or helps you answer these three questions. All right, some just like very utilitarian tools that you can use because you're going to be maybe wanting to design some things or maybe wanting to use video, which I would highly, highly suggest. Video really rules the day. So as much as you can use video, try to do that. But Canva is great for design. And then something called InShot is great for video editing. Very user-friendly. It's a very quick way to edit videos and make them look really nice. You can add music, you can do the whole thing, and then upload them where you will. All right, so those are some tools that can help. Okay, so just some best practices to reiterate for posting. Use emotional intelligence. Don't be afraid to be vulnerable. We talked about being ready to admit like, oh, I don't know the answer, but I'll get back to you. Those types of things matter. Connect and validate common feelings. So if somebody's posting something, what you always want to think of is how can I validate what they're saying as long as it is within reason. Be clear with your call to action. Whatever it is you want people to do, make sure that that is very clear. And remember, in your lead generation, you're going to get to the end of those 6 to 8 touches, and then you're going to do your call to action piece. If you do use video, which we said was king, it really rules the content of the day. Try to film horizontally unless otherwise indicated. In other platforms like TikTok, for instance, you do vertical, but horizontally is the best. And make sure to turn the captions on because most people are watching videos with the sound off because a lot of people are watching videos when they really shouldn't be. So just make sure you caption your videos. Respond quickly to inquiries. So that's why you need to check in with your account every single day. People may personally message you and you want to make sure that you are staying on top of those. So respond quickly. Post responsibly. Remember, we're talking about 3 times a week. If you want to always err on the side of quality versus quantity as well. Consider how you can add value. Post thank you messages. This is a great example of a message, a LinkedIn message that was a thank you message, and she's tagging people. So all of that is great. She's also cross-marketing for other businesses, which is great. We talked about that before. And then as you are doing all of this, as you're working on your profile, as you're posting, as you're doing your lead generation, you're going to start to get a feel for what people are responding to and really, really pay attention to that because that will help inform the next steps of your strategy. And here's the most important agreement of the entire presentation. And that is you are doing the best you can. You have been 18 months in a pandemic, in a business, whatever the case may be. You are trying to juggle probably 1,000 things. You are having to deal with social media. You're learning about, you showed up to a lunch and learn to learn about your LinkedIn lead generation. Pat yourself on the back. You're doing a good job. You're doing the best you can. Take the pieces from this presentation, start somewhere, try to be consistent. Most importantly, be kind to yourself throughout the process and really, really pay attention to what is resonating to help inform the next steps. And I promise you, it will get easier as you go along. So I just want to applaud everybody that took the time to learn something that may be completely foreign to you, or to brush up on some skills that you might have been delving into. And I wish you all the best of luck. If you want to contact me, feel free to. This is my information. We also at Converge have LinkedIn services if you're ever interested in those, that kind of make this much, much easier on you and kind of get you to the good parts way faster. So general questions about that, we're here to help you. So with that, I will, I guess, open it up to questions from the audience.
Nancy, may I have any questions? That felt like a master class. Holy moly, that was so much information. I was taking notes, but yes, we will share this recording later when it's posted. You can go back and watch it and share it. Thank you, Brooke. That was amazing information. I learned so much. I had no idea, like the sales navigator. I had no idea that was a thing. Several things I wrote down on there, the publication and all kinds of things. So that was great. So
awesome.
All right. Well, if nobody has any questions, we will thank you very much for being here. We appreciate everyone's time today. And again, hope that you learned a lot today. I'm sure you did. Appreciate you being here. And again, Brooke, Converge Local, thank you so much. We appreciate you always, always. Hope everybody has a great day. We'll see you later.
Thank you.